Folks, history is made every year right here on this Olympia stage. This year, no different. Our next gentleman here by special invitation. He has donned this stage many, many years ago in a different capacity, but this year at 52 years old, wanted to challenge himself and prove that anybody can overcome obstacles and make their dreams come true. Please welcome the great Flex Wheeler.
Well, we're going to get a look at Flex Wheeler right now, Sean Ray, because that's what the fans want to see. Long way from those DMX routines, I got to be honest with you, but he's mellowed out, and man, I'll tell you, they're coming to their feet here at the Orleans Arena as they had the rare privilege of seeing an encore presentation, if you will, in the career of Ken Flex Wheeler, a Hall of Famer just like you, Sean Ray, one of the great bodybuilders of all time. And this is a real treat. The fans here in Las Vegas are up, showing their respect to one of the all-time greats.
Flex is an emotional bodybuilder, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some tears come down. He's a grandfather.
Give it up one last time for Olympia legend, Flex Wheeler.
Sean Ray, we've seen some extraordinary moments play out here at the Olympia stage. Remarkable moments, moments of humanity, perseverance, extraordinary achievements. Where does this rate on your list of some of those great moments?
It's right up there with, I remember Sergio Oliva brought some.
And presenting the first place award, representing Diamondized Nutrition, Miss Annie Seal. Along with our Pro League president, Mr. Jim Mannion. They will take the first place award, the Olympia gold medal, the first place check for $20,000, and the title of 2017 Classic Olympia champion to your winner, Breon Ansley.
All right, there it is. Breon Ansley is your 2017 Classic Physique champion. He parlayed his momentum with that win earlier this year at the New York Pro. And Sean Ray, we have ourselves not just a new champion, but a new look, because this is the structure of Classic Physique. This is what a lot of people have felt a long time coming when they envision this division.
All right,
this is what a Classic Physique champion would look like.
And we got a glimpse of it in May. I was there in White Plains, New York back in May when Breon noticed that he was coming from last year. I believe he was 3rd or 4th place, and he wasn't happy with that. Went into New York, got his qualification for this contest, and he told Danny right there at Gold's Gym he was coming. Breon's an athlete that works with legendary bodybuilder Chris Cormier. He's an old school throwback, very polished from head to toe, and he got justice tonight.
you know, when you look at him and you look at the progression of his physique, is this a guy who could hang on to this title for a few years?
This is a very slippery slope. Again, he looks this way today. Next year, a year from now, it could be someone else. He came from 4th place a year ago. I mean, Danny Hester won a year ago. This is not something you're going to be able to hold on to for that long. It's just too slippery. These guys are all very good, can change places from one year to the next. I mean, Danny won a year ago. He was 5th. Breon was 4th.
All right, Breon, I want you to hold that trophy up. Folks, this is a brand new trophy we've unveiled this year for this division, so you're going to see this trophy for many years to come. Much like the Sandow is to the bodybuilders, this trophy will represent the classic bodybuilders.
Peter's Olympia Fitness and Performance Weekend 2017. We just saw Breon Ansley win the Classic Olympia title. He becomes now the 2nd champion of that division. But now it's the moment everyone has been waiting for, the most anticipated moment of the year in the world of professional bodybuilding. It is time to judge the Mr. Olympia.
And that has special significance considering, Dan, 53 years, only 13 champions. Will we have a 14th tonight? That's the question. I know that Big Ramy wants to throw his hat into the arena. Sean Roden's been chomping at the bit. Dexter the Blade Jackson. We've got a good lineup here. This is not going to be a walk in the park for Phil Heath.
All sights, of course, are set on the reigning champion, Phil Heath, who comes in with 6 Olympia titles. He equaled the mark of Dorian Yates this time 1 year ago. If he's able to win tonight, he will have 7, which will match the number of Olympia titles attained by the great Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that would leave him just 1 short of the all-time record. We'll talk about that down the road. But first things first, we're going to get a look at our top 15 Mr. Olympia competitors.
Rolly Winkler up all the way from Carousel. Rolly actually came on the scene by winning the Amateur Arnold Classic. He's since gone on to win over in Finland. He's won a few different competitions on the road, continually just getting bigger every single year. The one thing that we had to be careful of is losing the definition. And that's what's been his crutch, is that on that stage he's carrying so much muscle, the detail sometimes get lost in that body.
Well, Rolly competed 8. Now this is worth mentioning because Johnny Jackson is making, we are told, his final Olympia appearance. One of the great bodybuilders of our era. He's won a whole bunch of titles, as Bob Chicarilla mentioned, regarded as one of the strongest bodybuilders to ever live. And we've been debating that for years. But he's bringing a really nice package here in his final Olympia showing.
If he's nothing but consistent, I mean, the knock on Johnny has always been the lack of thigh sweeps, but those legs can squat damn near 800 pounds. It just doesn't translate into the complete leg development. The hamstrings are a little bit slight. The upper body, arguably world class. He's got some of the biggest traps in the
bodybuilding champion, Nathan Diasha, competed in just his 2nd Olympia. And this is a guy who really packs a lot of muscle. And he's a guy who really, if he can find the formula, has the ability to beat a lot of guys.
Yeah, he won the Lou Ferrigno Classic this past October, I believe it was, out there in Palm Springs. So to get here, you had to win. To get here, he didn't do
2012, Sean Ray, and he actually started as an under 212 bodybuilder.
That's right, and he actually won the Arnold Classic Brazil. Out of nowhere, he came to snatch that title, and that's the one that Kai Green won out there, and of course Brandon Curry's won it, and now he's holding on to that title, which got him here. A little bit out of his depth, I think, on this level, but he's one of the more flexible, one of the nicer looking posers, and he's representing very well for the little body.
Number 18, I believe. So he'll be the final athlete, as is the case in typical Olympia tradition. They bring out the defending champion last. But first, we're going to get a look at Lionel Bayecki, a guy who, when he came on the scene, Sean Ray, his career started with great promise. He won the 2012 Flex Pro. He's had a solid career, won an event in San Marino a year ago. To see with great anticipation. He was a runner-up here a year ago. There's been so much anticipation because there's been a lot of rumblings that this is going to be a far more formidable athlete than we even saw here a year ago, as Sean Roden looks to take out the champ. And from the front, Sean Roden is always impressive. Sean Ray, the question is, what's going to happen when he turns around?
Well, and that's the thing. He's not as impressive from the back. And right now, just at first glance, there's a little bit of water hanging on there. He's got to control that midsection.
Our first look at Australia's own Josh Lenardowitz, fast becoming one of the most popular bodybuilders on the planet. He is the pride of Australia. He already has 3 pro wins to his credit. He won just about a month ago in Tampa, and then shortly after that, he stumbled on a horrific, tragic situation when a guy, his fams and his family and friends who continue to grieve, just an awful situation, and it really has cast a cloud over really so much of this weekend because everybody misses Dallas here in Las Vegas.
And Josh is representing Dallas, so kudos to him, and that memory will not be long forgotten. And this guy right here, your reigning Arnold Classic champion, Big Mac, the military man, looks like he lost a bit of his polish from the Arnold Classic.
Jeff Beckham walking out with some swagger. He, of course, was your overall winner at the 2012 Team Universe. It's not every day that we see a former Team Universe champion here rocking the Olympia stage. How about that?
Not to mention, it's his first time. The guy got here on points. He did the
beast from the East, and Bob Ciccarello brings him out, and they call him Big Ramy for a very obvious reason. He is a massive bodybuilder with extreme proportions, massive quad sweep, insane shoulder to shoulder, and he's got it all. I mean, this is a guy who is just loaded with muscle on top of muscle. The bodybuilding world has been waiting for him to put it together. And Sean, I'm going to let you break down what appears to be the most well-conditioned Big Ramy we've ever seen.
He showed up here at 305. Just to see him now at 290.
That's a tough act to follow, but he's your 2017 California Pro Champ. He was also 3rd at our good friend Chad Nichols' Mayhem show earlier this year. It was actually his Olympia debut. So Gerald, welcome to the Olympia stage.
Yeah, team national champion. His arms are really his weakness, his flaw. He looks like an athlete, the very, very tiny waist, but he doesn't have the... I'm not talking about Dexter Jackson. Speaking of older bodybuilders, the Dominican Dominator, this guy's built a career right here on this bodybuilding stage.
What's amazing is, as we look at Victor Martinez, who, by the way, looks much better than he did when he was here a year ago. We are talking about a guy, let's remember, let's get some perspective. 10 years ago tonight, this is a guy that a lot of people felt won this contest.
I was here and I agree.
Yeah, a lot of people felt when I've had the privilege of covering throughout the entirety of his 17 years in the pro ranks. Now we're going to look at a guy who's a bit of a wild card tonight. Brandon Curry is extremely dangerous. He's ventured out there to Oxygen Gym, where he has sort of reshaped his entire approach to training, and he is a guy who has proven that when he gets it together, he has the ability to win any show.
They haven't caught to the upper body, but they have come up.
I was about to say that Brandon Curry has a chance to be this year's William Bonac. Speaking of William Bonac, last year's, really one of the biggest stories of last year's Olympia. He's now has 6 pro wins to his credit. He was 5th here a year ago, kind of snuck up on everybody, but you can be sure, Sean Ray, that he isn't sneaking up on anybody this year. He is a known commodity coming into the 2017.
Yeah, the guys are fully aware of William Bonac's got a few pro wins under his belt. Working with Neil Hill, I don't know where he could put any more muscle on his frame. And mind you, Brandon Curry outweighs him by nearly 30 pounds.
4 different Arnold Classics this year alone. He won 2 events, one Chicago and Vancouver, and he is now competing here at the Olympia in Las Vegas, where this is a guy who, as he has been coming up, has been celebrated as a very legitimate future threat in this sport. He's got a lot of things going for him.
Well, if he picks the right show. Right now, I think he's got to work on the gyno.
He has 28 pro wins to his credit, making him the winningest professional bodybuilder of all time. He turns 48 in November. Now, we just talked about Victor Martinez being 10 years removed from nearly winning an Olympia title. Dexter Jackson, incredibly enough, is 9 years removed from being Mr. Olympia, and he is here right now on this stage, not just as a participant, but as a bona fide, legitimate contender for this title here, 9 years. Heath, he has now competing for the 4th time this year, so Max Charles has kept busy. One of those events was in Columbus at the Arnold Classic, where he scored a top 3 finish, sort of putting himself on the bodybuilding map.
Yeah, he was actually leading Dallas McCarver right behind Brandon Curry in the Australia show before Dallas had some moment.
We're going to get a look at your 6-time defending reigning champion, Phil Heath, and A young man named Phil Heath, who was competing in his hometown that night, made his professional debut. He wowed the crowd. It was a victorious debut. He won a week later in New York, and so began one of the most illustrious careers this sport has ever known. He has since gone on to win the Olympia 6 times, and tonight he's gunning for number 7. He and his trainer, Hani Rambod, have put in the work. They devised a plan, so I'm going to let you, Sean Ray, be the first here in 2017 to assess this version of Phil Heath.
It was a long time ago, Dan. Phil has done many things in those 11 years with what he has to work with, and mind you, he didn't wake up and become Mr. Olympia overnight. He put in the work. He won that junior national title. Wound up coming up winning the USA's right here in Las Vegas, and he's plotted his way. I believe he started off in the Mr. Olympia not as Mr. Olympia. He was 4th place, worked his way up to first runner-up behind Jay Cutler, and ultimately grabbed the title, and here he is. And so far, I got no complaints. And again, from the back, this is where these shows are won and lost. Those hamstrings, that back, I haven't seen anybody matching him in this. Yeah,
it really is a winning formula. It's just a level of dimension that most guys just really in the history of the sport haven't been able to bring to the stage. It is eye-popping, jaw-dropping muscle as Phil Heath gets the crowd behind him, and it's really fun watching Phil sort of evolve as a professional. The way he takes the stage, the way he commands the stage, he hits his shots. He knows what he's here to do. This is very much a workmanlike business trip for Phil Heath, and he's here to continue his reign atop the sport. But make no mistake about it, each year it's a different look for Phil.
Olympia champion, Phil Heath.
All right, we're going to go ahead and throw it to Carlos Sanchez, who's with our classic group he wants to look at, and you're going to hear it right now.
Dexter and Phil.
It's a lot of guys to be calling out in the first call out. I remember, Dan, when they called out 3 guys.
Well, you're not looking at any surprises here. I think this is kind of the group that we were looking for. Brandon Curry did make his way into this first call out, and I know that's something that he obviously wanted to achieve. But with Sean Roden and last year's top 5 finisher, William Bonac, and of course Phil, this is, and Big Ramy, this is a group that we sort of anticipated seeing. And Dexter Jackson, once again, assumes his spot and an Olympia first call out.
And right away, they're moving Big Ramy in close next to Phil Heath, and Phil's like, bring it on. Phil's not shy with 6 Olympia titles at home on his mantle. And of course, these guys are all nipping at his heels. But Big Ramy is serving notice with the shoulders and the thighs.
All right, so I'm going to ask you to compare Phil Heath to Mamadou Alsbaye Big Ramy right now, because this is a key comparison.
That's a very close comparison. Apples and oranges still, because Phil's a little bit more genetically advantaged there. He's put together a little bit more pleasing, but you can't ignore those arms on Big Ramy or those thighs.
A little more dimension and depth to the upper half of Phil Heath's physique. Obviously, Ramy has the overpowering thighs. Of course, Phil Heath's thighs aren't too shabby either. So you're talking about 2 of the very best in the planet. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out as we move forward, and not to be forgotten all of this, you know, Dexter Jackson and Sean Roden and William Bonac, and now, of course, Brandon Curry arrives in this group.
They'll be moved around and shuffled quite a bit, but right now, Dan, I'm going with Big Ramy and Phil Heath as the leaders of this lineup. Big Ramy's too big to ignore, and Phil is the reigning and defending champion. I think Phil is appearing a little bit bloated, and that's going to work against him if he doesn't dry that up by tomorrow. But that's the thing, Dan. They will have time to improve on what we see as shortcomings here tonight.
And Phil has a history of making key adjustments in those 24 hours.
Makes the difference in winning and losing. I've saw him losing and yet win because he made such a transformation in 24 hours.
Well, I think so far what we know is Big Ramy is climbing the ladder. He's moving up.
He's serving notice, but I got to tell you, I think Phil is still holding steadfast on that #1 placement. I'm going to be curious to see what's going to happen after Phil and Ramy, because right now I got Phil and Ramy. So if that's my 1 and 2, I got to look at 3 and 4.
And let's look at Ramy and Dexter, because Dexter out-conditions Big Ramy all day.
He does.
And, you know, so it's funny because we're always, you know, we're quick right now. We're jumping right on the Ramy train. But right next to Big Ramy, to his left, is Dexter Jackson, which brings a completely different look. So I think we owe it to the process to compare these guys appropriately.
Absolutely. And when they start to change them around, we'll start changing our appearances accordingly, because that's what the call-out's for. So now William Bonek's going to get the opportunity to stand to the left of the champion. I don't know that William Bonek has the size just yet to stand next to Phil or Big Ramy. But Ramy does look a little bit flat. He could have a little bit more oil on his body to shine just a little bit more. All these guys are going to look considerably better by tomorrow after they get done posing. But Phil, you see the water coming out on Phil's chest. As he starts to shine, we're seeing the sweat come out. That's the water that you can hold subcutaneously under your skin. Brandon, he's not sweating. Big Ramy is not sweating. That's because they've dried out as much as they can. Phil looks like a little bit raw to retentive, especially in the midsection. It's coming out on the chest, shoulders, and arms.
Phil and Ramy back in line, please.
William Bonek for a top 3 comparison, and it would be reasonable to guess this will probably be our final comparison of this round.
It will be, and I doubt that tomorrow anybody's going to make the necessary changes to change what we're looking at right now.
Well, what we're looking at is 2 bodybuilders who have moved up. William Bonek, Big Ramy, neither of them have ever tasted the top 3 in the world, and it looks like that's in the future for them in the next 24 hours. Phil Heath is trying to fend off both of them and retain the most coveted title in bodybuilding, and he's going to work for it. Because you can be sure that as Phil Heath directs traffic up there, you can be sure that Phil Heath's going to have to work for it. But really, as you look at these guys, it's hard to imagine, as great as Ramy is, as wide as he is, as thickly built as he is, with all that dense, grainy muscle and the clear improvements in the world-class conditioning that he has finally brought to the Olympia stage. People always used to say, if Ramy gets it together and comes in shape, is it going to be good enough to knock off Phil Heath? So I think that question, I'll pose it to you. Is it good enough to take out Phil?
I think it's damn close. I would not be surprised, Dan, if we don't see exactly what you're talking about. It's very possible. I'm not going to say probable, but it's very possible. Steve Weinberger is a very fair head judge, and I saw Ramy over in Kuwait beat Dexter and Sean Roden.
And I'll tell you what, Phil Heath might be laughing right now, but Steve Weinberger just put the defending champion on the outside and moved Big Ramy into the center spot. You can read into that. We don't want to overstate it. But at the end of the day, right now, Big Ramy is getting his chance to stand in the center of what appears to be the final call-out of the day. At the very least, we have some intrigue.
Well, I'm not going to end it there. William Bonek might wind up in the middle, too, and give them all a fair shot. But Big Ramy, he's serving notice, man, and I'm not going to say that it's impossible. Phil's genetics are far more superior than Ramy's, but there's individual poses where Ramy is undeniably all up in his grill. And we cannot discount what little William Bonek is bringing, because William is as complete as they come. He's just smaller. I faced the same situation. Labrada, same situation. Mohamed Makaway. Sometimes when you're small, you're the odd man out. And right now, these 2 big men in Phil Heath and Big Ramy, this is a contest that's up for grabs as of tonight.
And it's a bit of an apples and oranges situation, and we're kind of back to that. We kind of moved away from the apples oranges debate when Ronnie's reign ended, when Jay's reign ended, but we're kind of back there now. Big Ramy's the big, thick, massive bodybuilder, and they're going to do exactly what you said. They're going to put William in the middle, which probably relieves Phil just a little bit right now.
He's smiling. He's like, thank you.
Because the narrative has just shifted in that moment where now he's no longer concerned. But you know what? He should be concerned.
He should be concerned. Big Ramy's been coming for a long time. I got to imagine Jay Cutler, when he saw Phil Heath coming. I can imagine Ronnie Coleman when he saw Jay Cutler coming. Eventually, it happens and every dog has their day. But as I look at Phil Heath, as good as his physique is with those big overblown deltoids, his chest is a little bit diminished as a result of the shoulders. My eyes keep coming back to Ramy in terms of being the guy that's going to be able to stand with Phil and battle with Phil. And we're not even talking about Ramy's calves, because they're not even really a factor here. His size, his shoulder width, the girth, it's something that you can't ignore on those thigh sweeps.
Well, the other thing you can't ignore is the fact that here in 2017 at the Olympia, we have ourselves a legitimate battle. we're not going to come away from this prejudging with a clear sense of who won the contest. Big Ramy has done the work. William Bonac is impressive. And Phil Heath is good, but he may have cracked open that door just enough to keep things interesting.
He left the door open. Tomorrow we're going to find out.
We're going to find out, but first, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here as our coverage from Las Vegas continues here at Joe Weider's 2017 Olympia Weekend.
Presenting the 10th place award, representing Amazon Media Group, to have R.C. Casey back on stage. Please take the 10th place award, the check for $16,000, and present it to Cedric McMillan.
All right, so Cedric remains among the top 10 in the world. This was not the placing he was looking for, but I can tell you right now, this is a class act, and he is smiling. He gets it. He's going to move forward. He's going to win more titles, and Cedric McMillan is a humble, classy champion, and he has respect for the sport, for his family, for himself, and I couldn't say enough good things about what Cedric McMillan represents as a bodybuilder.
Even on an off day, he still remains top 10 in the world, and that's...
And please take that 9th place award, the check for $19,000, and present it to the king of the gym, Josh Lenardowitz.
All right, Sean, so Josh Lenardowitz is going to check in the 9th place spot this year. I know he came in looking for better, but then again, all these guys have. I know he worked real hard, traveled a bunch, went through a lot of adversity. He also was very closely connected to the Dallas McCarver situation, obviously probably as connected to it as anybody, to be honest with you. He was, you know, right along.
And please take the 8th place award, the check for $20,000, and present it to Brandon Curry.
The prodigy, Brandon Curry, I think the efforts and the paycheck speak for themselves. He went over to Kuwait, separated himself from his family, won 2 pro shows, and lands in the top 10 of the Mr. Olympia. This is the best year he's had as a professional.
I think this more than anything.
And please take the 7th place award, the check for $25,000, and present it to Nathan Diasha.
Nathan comes all the way from the UK. A year ago was out of the top 10, and here he is.
All right, so and then there were 6.
Please take the 6th place award, the check for $35,000, and present it to
Rolly Winkler, I believe, Dan.
Rolly Winkler.
Rolly Winkler takes the 6th place spot. That is now his highest Olympia showing. A strong Olympia here in 2017 for Rolly Winkler. Brings more muscle than just about anybody. And, you know, it's a big-time Olympia for Rolly Winkler, and I think this is a spot that he's been looking for a long time.
And there wasn't a physique for him to compare to in that lineup, so 6th place is a victory.
Weinberger has to say about this.
Thank you, Bob.
As he takes them through a final set of comparisons.
Gentlemen, quarter turn to the right. Quarter turn to the right. Quarter turn to the right. Face front. Front double bicep.
So this is going to be our final chance to get to see these guys compared. Phil Heath in the center on one side of him, Big Ramy, Mamadou Elsbaye on the other side, the former Olympia champion of 2008, Dexter Jackson. William Bonac all the way off to the right side of your screen, and Sean Roden all the way off to the left side. These are the top 5 bodybuilders in the world. And now what they're going to do is they're going to move Big Ramy into the center. He is milking the crowd. The crowd is responding in a big way. During the commercial break, Bob Ciccarello asked the audience who they thought was going to win. He mentioned every single name. And the name that got the biggest applause was Big Ramy. People are really excited about the possibility that we could potentially see the crowning of a 14th Mr. Olympia tonight.
Something to get excited about, but Phil Heath is not going to go quietly into the night, Dan. This is where his experience may come through, but we also might see a different Ramy knowing the potential and the gravity of the situation. Let's find out who seizes the moment.
I know we say this a lot, but I would not want to be holding that pencil and paper at the judges' table right now. This is extremely close, extremely difficult to call. Big Ramy has done the work, and he has brought something extremely dangerous. I don't know if he's going to win tonight. He might, but I can tell you this right now. He's created a whole lot of intrigue as we begin the march to the 2018 Olympia. First things first, we got to crown a champion.
Well, you can see Phil's just got better genetics, tinier waist. From the back, he's lights out as far as I'm concerned. However, Ramy is super wide. The judges have got to take into account, conditioning does count for something, as you see in Phil Heath's glutes and his hamstrings. But there's something to be said, Dan, for getting as big as Big Ramy is and still being able to have a very pleasing physique. Look at the side of his leg compared to Phil's. It is ridiculously large. We don't see that. It is ridiculous. He's 5'9".
Dominoes in 5.
We knew Big Ramy was special from the moment we first heard about him. His first couple outings at the Olympia were impressive. They were respectable, but we knew he had further that he needed to go. We knew that there was a piece of this puzzle that he hadn't found yet. It appears that he has found it. And now they're going to go through the most muscular, which is obviously going to be the image that you're going to see across social media over the next 24 hours as these guys hit their favorite most muscular in the final moments of Olympia judging, their final chance to make their case. There's your 2008 Olympia champion, Dexter Jackson, Sean Roden, last year's runner-up, Phil.
Really very little gas to take. And now with this camera angle, you see the detail that Ramy doesn't necessarily have in that muscularity shot that Phil actually is carrying. But this is when they're spent. They've been dieting in the anxiety and the dehydration. It is a very strenuous position to be in. They cannot wait to get this thing over.
And I'm going to caution the fans out there, because I know there's fans of Big Ramy that think he has this. The fans of Phil Heath thinks he has it. And you know what? On some level, you're both right, because you both have a good case for winning this thing. There isn't a right or a wrong answer on this thing. These guys are having a lot of fun. They all bring something very different. What Big Ramy brings is not what Phil Heath brings, but they are both, or in the case of Big Ramy, he is at the top of his game. Phil Heath obviously has a genetic predisposition to deliver something that's remarkable. And the question is that genetic predisposition?
Please take the 5th place award in check for $45,000 to your 5th place finisher, Sean Roden.
All right, Sean Ray, there it is. Sean Roden is going to finish 5th place here at the 2017 Mr. Olympia, an outcome that certainly is not surprising at all based on the way the judges called this thing out through the course of the contest. A testament to Sean Roden for continuing to stay among the top 5 in the world, where he has been for several years, and he'll stay there once again. And really one of the great bodybuilders on the planet. He fell just a little bit short. I know he wanted to bring something a little bit different, but it didn't quite play out for him this year. But once again, $45,000.
You will take the 4th place award in check for $55,000 and present it to the Blade, Dexter Jackson.
Once again, Dexter Jackson remains among the world's very best. He was 3rd a year ago. He'll settle for 4th this year. He'll turn 48 years old in November, but apparently for the Blade, age means nothing, and the fans respect it. They appreciate it. And Dexter Jackson, I'm going to tell you right now, he's going to be back again next year.
Well, there's nothing. Look at Dexter Jackson.
To your 3rd place finisher, William Bonac.
William Bonac continues to climb the ladder, joins the very exclusive top 3 in the World Club, where he will be presented with an Olympia bronze medal, something I know you are very familiar with. Sean Ray, I think you have a few of those hanging in your office.
I got 3 of them, Dan, and I got to tell you something. That is a heavy little weight that he's got around his neck, and it is an accomplishment in his career that he'll be able to tell his brand.
On the line here tonight, folks, $400,000. The Sandow and the title of 2017 Mr. Olympia.
The 7-time Mr. Olympia, Phil the Gift Heath.
As spoken from the mouth of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Move over, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You've got company. Phil Heath is now a 7-time winner of bodybuilding's most prestigious title. He is Mr. Olympia once again, one victory shy of the all-time record. But for tonight, Phil Heath will celebrate number 7 alongside The Rock, and the admiration of fans around the world. Big Ramy, Mamdouh Asbieh settles for second. It was a furious charge by the runner-up. Big Ramy deserves all the respect in the world. He is not finished yet. Big Ramy will be back next year to battle for this title, but for now, the night belongs to Phil the Gift Heath. Jim Mannion presents the Sandow Trophy, bodybuilding's most coveted prize, along with a very big $400,000 check. That is AMI CEO David Pecker to Phil's left. And of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson made this presentation all the more special by announcing it himself. Phil Heath from Colorado remains the best bodybuilder in the world.
And Dan, again, he was pushed to the limits, rose to the occasion, and there's no doubt in my mind that this contest was won from the back. And that is Phil Heath's strength. If you don't take him out in his best poses, he is Mr. Olympia, 7 times.
I'm just so thankful, because when I started bodybuilding on October 8th, 2002, I had no idea that I would be standing on this stage one day winning the Mr. Olympia, let alone, being 7-time champion. When I got into this journey, I was, a little bit bitter because I didn't make it playing Division I basketball, and I was trying to find another outlet. And bodybuilding taught me how to be strong mentally, physically, and emotionally through all life's challenges. It taught me how to train hard when no one's in the room, when you're having a bad day, through death, through hardship, through anything that can go wrong. I always had the gym. Over at Arm Breast, I could train. I could train any time of the day. There would be days I would train by myself or with my fiance, Cherie, and I would be in there dying. Looking at those pictures in the gym of Schwarzenegger, of Coleman, of Haney, of Dorian, of everybody. And I would just tell myself, one more set, one more rep, just give it everything you got so you can put yourself in the best position to win. And that's all we can do in life, people. Sometimes life is going to serve you up some curveballs, but I challenge each and every one of you to step in that batter's box and take a damn swing. Just take a swing. And it ain't going to always work out for you. It ain't going to always work out. Look, I just beat some incredible athletes. They are some of the best athletes I've ever competed against. Please give them a round of applause, please. Because they have made this so hard. But I can tell you what, my faith in God, my family, my trainer, Honey Rambod, I love you, man. I've had one trainer, one. I did my first pro show in 2006 at the Colorado Pro. We did the New York Pro after that, and we won both of them. And a lot of people thought, you know what, this guy's gonna be something. And Honey always told me, Phil, you have to understand something. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and a measurement of a man is when he gets knocked down, not when he's winning. So I lost a few times. And he always reminded me just to keep on going and be the hardest worker in the room, just like what you say. And when people tell you you can't, you don't look at them. You don't need to look at them. You look in the mirror and you ask yourself, do you give it your all? You look at the mirror and you ask yourself, do you have another rep? You ask yourself, can I go to work when I'm pissed off because I'm about to get fired or something bad happened or lost my girlfriend or whatever it is? You ask yourself, do you have the guts to go after it when no one is watching, no one's patting you on the back, and no one is liking your stuff on freaking social media? If you got the guts to go after it, you can put yourself in best position to win, and that's what I did through this entire prep. It was not easy. A lot of people say, oh, Phil, he's got genetics and this and that. I put that God-given talent to work each and every damn day in the gym. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for the Olympia